Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is here. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, joined as always by my co-host Mark Mitchell.
Hey, Patrick, how's it going?
Yeah, pretty good, Mark. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good.
It's a pleasant. It's Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Which coming off the weekend.
Yeah,
Tough
so
to do a Monday.
Yeah, so whatever that means to you.
Yeah, I think it means the blues for everyone.
Well, I mean, maybe you're an ER doctor, and so your Monday is, or our Monday is your Friday.
Also, maybe you're listening to this podcast and not recording it, and for you, it's Tuesday.
Oh yeah, great point. That's a great point. In fact, we know that to be true.
Yeah, we know that everyone who listens to this show, thank you again.
Yeah, thank you.
Listens to it on Tuesday, right when it comes out.
Mhm.
Like, shares, subscribes, tells all their friends about it.
Yep.
Weather report.
So pleasant.
Pleasant, a little warmish.
Yeah, a little warmish.
I'm wearing shorts today. I've been doing it all day.
At work?
Yeah. I can wear whatever I want at work.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you take advantage of that? I mean, more than just shorts.
I mean, I'm wearing shorts.
Yeah. But I mean, like, do you push the envelope?
I feel like I sort of push the envelope with these shorts. Like, they're not teeny tiny, but they're shorter shorts.
I mean, they're above the knee.
Yes. Well above the knee. I would say closer. I'm not going to stand up and show them to you.
Well, now I'm curious.
All right, I'm standing up.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I've got a good, 5 inches, maybe 4 or 5 inches above the knee.
Yeah.
In any event, Mark. We've got a little debugging to do here.
Just a tiny little bit.
Just like a little one.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like a huge one.
And in fact, on a technicality, I'm not even going to call it a debug, but we should go ahead anyways.
We'll call it an unbugging. How about that?
Great.
So we were talking about the Super Nintendo / Super Famicom as it relates to the rumor of a Super Nintendo Classic.
That's right.
And you had mentioned that there were 3 different versions of that thing.
Right. Whereas, for the NES Classic, they just had to make 2. They made a they made a Famicom version, and then a Nintendo Entertainment System.
Right. And we were like, they'll have to do the 3 different versions here. One being the Super Famicom, one being the PAL region of the Super Nintendo, and the other being the North America region, Super Nintendo. But it turns out that the PAL and Japan, the shape of the machine is the same, but the PAL version shares the name Super Nintendo. Right?
Yes.
Did we get that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's my understanding. That's what somebody told me.
That's what somebody told you.
Yeah, that's what a friend
really
told
good.
me who listened to the show.
And was like, hey, you need to be
Just a
debugged.
heads up. Yeah.
Well, good. Now we know, and now everyone else knows.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Do I want to get technical? Absolutely.
Yes,
and are they
100%.
different versions? Because one's called a Super Nintendo and one's called the Super Famicom, and you would have to make 2 different versions for that? Yes.
Right, but you don't need to make 2 different molds. You just need
different
3
paint
different
jobs.
boxes.
Yeah.
Paint jobs too?
Well,
Does
isn't
it
there
say
some sort
Super
of
Nintendo?
branding on it?
Honestly, I don't know. You're probably right. There probably is branding on it somewhere.
I'm going to call myself right till somebody debugs me. So I'm good with that. That's how I operate.
Perfect. Mark, what have you been playing?
Breath of the Wild,
Yeah.
of course.
The Legend of Zelda, The Breath of the Wild?
The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And you know what? I went ahead and I'd been putting off doing the Divine Beasts.
Yeah.
Other than the bird one.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, I'll do those last, after I've done the shrines that I want to do, because I want to get all the shrines.
So the bird Divine Beast was your first Divine Beast?
Yeah.
Okay.
And over the weekend, I was like, why am I doing it this way again? And I couldn't come up with a compelling reason.
Right.
So I went ahead and did all of the Divine Beasts.
All 4 of them?
Yeah.
What order did you approach them in after the Rudo?
Beast. Man. I did the Zora Kingdom one,
Mm-hmm.
and then I did the volcano one,
Mm-hmm. The
and
Goron and then the
the
Gerudo.
Goron, and then the Gerudo.
The Rudo one, the bird one, is the only one I have not done yet.
Oh.
Yeah, I did the Goron one this last week, and I enjoyed it okay. I didn't think it was as much fun as the other two that I've done so far. I don't know if like I really like the Goron champion from like back in the day, Daruk or Daruk or whatever his name is. But like none of the existing Goron characters do I think are like that fun.
The thing I didn't love about the Goron one was the kind of like escort mission type thing you had to do getting to it.
Yeah.
That's been my least favorite of the how are you going to board the divine beast
Yeah.
quests. My favorite was the Zora one.
Yeah, the Zora one's
because
awesome.
the music is amazing.
The music is amazing, and Sidon is such a cool like sidekick for that. He's just like, "Come on, Link, let's go."
So, but those have all so taking care of those. I'm at like 90 shrines, so I have 30 left.
Yeah,
and then I'm going to make my way to Hyrule Castle.
So when you say, "and then I'm going to make my way to Hyrule Castle," you're going to clear all the. You want to clear all 120 shrines before heading there, or
as many as I can. I don't know if there's some that like you're not able to do until after you've killed Ganon.
That's not my understanding, but I mean there may just reach a point where like you just stop finding them, right?
Yeah, I guess that's true. The one thing with doing the Divine Beast the way that I have is my weapons are kind of awesome at this point.
Yeah.
So the bosses are not a challenge, which is fine.
Right.
Because combat is actually my least favorite part of this game.
Yeah, I like the combat. I think it's actually pretty good.
I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Like I don't think it's bad or broken or anything, but I realize when I'm locked into fighting something, I miss just the running around part. Like the exploration is the selling point to me.
Yeah, well, and like I almost like the fights that you just sort of encounter on the world map. Like I really like doing that. I maybe mentioned last week that I've like taken on playing the game as just like I'm gonna be a Lionel hunter for a little bit, or I'm gonna just find and murder every Hinox I can find. And that's a lot of fun for me. Or like, man, when I'm just like, it's open season on Guardians. It's so fun. But yeah, it's obviously like a little bit of a change in like the priorities of the game. It's less about discovery and more just, kind of having the right equipment to take on bad guys. Have you done the build your house and or the Terrytown side missions?
No.
So I have a house in Hateno Village. It is fully upgraded, which means it has boxes where I can display weapons, bows, and shields. So I've got that. It's a guardian axe or like an ancient axe plus. Hanging up there. I've got a another plus like fire sword or something like that up there. It's just cool that I've got awesome weapons up there waiting for me whenever I need them. Yeah, no, I like that one. It's basically just spending a bunch of rupees to get it finished, but I don't know. I like that there's a little bit of like nesting in the game too. So you're not just like alone wandering the continent of Hyrule, but like there's also a little piece of it that's yours.
Yeah, that is really cool. I actually totally forgot about that because I've been in that village and seen that there is the space available.
Yeah.
But I completely forgot until you brought it up that was even.
Yeah, you can like buy a house.
Yeah. We've also been playing Donkey Kong Country 2 Diddy's Kong Quest for our NCS Classic Edition podcast mini episodes.
Sure, that's what we'll call it. It's a snappy name, just like Donkey Kong Country 2 Diddy's Kong Quest.
Mm-hmm.
The next episode of that will go live just later this week.
On Thursday.
Mm-hmm. So you can hear more about it there. We've also been playing, no surprise here, Mario Kart 8
That's
Deluxe.
right. No surprise.
No surprise. We will talk about that in more detail later in the show. It's our topic of the show, so we won't waste time on it here. But I've also been playing. Look, it's been kind of tough for me to get Mario Kart time because I've been sinking too much time into Puyo Puyo Tetris.
Oh, you're into it.
I'm like way into it.
Now, you're a Tet head to begin with.
Yeah, I would say yes. I'm a self-described Tet head, but I am a Puyo Puyo noobo. I'd never played Puyo Puyo before. Didn't realize that it's the same game as Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, but it is. So if you're like, I like Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, but this Puyo Puyo sounds weird, it's the same thing.
Is the history of it that like, because Puyo
yeah
has never been, it's not really that well known in the West.
That's right. So yeah,
was it brought over originally as Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine?
Yes. So Puyo Puyo is one of those games like Tetris that like traces its computer game origins way back, and different people have had like the license to distribute it, and Sega had it at one point, and they branded it as Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, which would have been around the same time as Dr. Mario. So I think they were just like, we need one of these two. Pluck, we'll take this, and it'll be it. It'll be that. And I don't know. So Puyo Puyo Tetris is a Sega game. So I don't know if like Sega just got it back or if they've all held it for the last 30 years or whatever. But so yeah, the game has got a crazy amount of like production and presentation to it, which I was not expecting at all. There's a story mode in this game where there's like a band of like interdimensional traveling Puyo Puyo girls that like always get sucked into different worlds, and they have to like pop Puyos to get out of it, right? And they come into contact with a spaceship that is all about like the crew of this spaceship. They're all about Tetris pieces.
Now, are these busty anime babes?
No, they are not. Boom anime babes. No, they are not boom anime babes. No, it's all very like Saturday morning cartoon anime. Like it's everything's real tame, like sexually speaking. But it's just crazy dumb pointless storylines where like the crews of the Puyo girls and the Tetris boys like
of course
misunderstood. There are women on the Tetris ship as well. But there's also one of the characters is like a talking fish. There's a robot. There are weird Pokemon-esque animals that I don't understand at all. But you play as those characters when you go into like versus mode or anything like that. So you get little like the little voice clips that are their personalities. And so Sarah and I have been playing this game a lot. Like Saturday afternoon was a lot of Puyo Puyo Tetris. And like you get sort of invested in the dumb personalities of these stupid characters.
I mean, it actually sounds really fun.
It's just a ton of fun. And like having never really played Puyo before, it's fun to have a new game like that and slowly get better at it. Like I was real bad at it at first, was just lining up 4 Puyos to like clear them out. But like the whole game is based on racking up combos and how many chain reactions you can trigger from like dropping one piece. And when you play the swap mode of it, it like flops back and forth between like every 30 seconds or something. It switches, you're playing Tetris to you're playing Puyo. And if you score a combo right before the thing switches, you have an opportunity to like continue the combo in the other game and drop even more amounts of garbage on your opponent. It's super fun and like way deep, and just has that like solid puzzle mechanic. And then it has all these amazing like presentational upgrades. Like the game's just really good. I cannot speak highly enough about it. That's all. I just really, really like Puyo Puyo Tetris.
And it came with some cool swag.
It did come with a little bit of swag. I don't know if all copies of it forever will come with this, but mine came with 2 keychains. One which is just a little Puyo, and the other which is the Tetris block. They're called Tetraminos, by the way.
Oh. Is
like,
that in the fictional universe of the game or in real life?
I think both.
Huh.
I think both in real life and the game.
Uh-oh.
They call them Tetraminos.
Tetramino.
Yeah. I mean, it's as good a name as any.
Yeah, I'm not critiquing it. I was repeating
You
it.
can. You can critique it.
No, I'm not going to. I'm just going to. I'm trying to remember it for like pub trivia or something.
Yeah. Tetramino. All right. That's good. Let's move on to the news.
Lots of news this week from Nintendo's financial results release. Starting with, Nintendo announced they have shipped 2.74 million Switch units worldwide.
What does that tell us? Does that tell us anything?
It's a lot of Switch.
It's a lot of Switch.
They were originally, like, their original projections for the financial year, which, mind you, ended March 31st. So as far as I know, this doesn't include anything in April, is they were planning on shipping 2 million.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe they ended up shipping
almost 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a lot.
Yeah.
And part of that was the Wall Street Journal reported today that they ended up air shipping a lot of Switches in the month of March to try to keep up with demand. Because normally when you're manufacturing in China and you're trying to get it to Europe or the Americas, you ship it by sea because it's so much cheaper than airmail. But because they were but it also takes way longer.
Right.
So they were really invested in getting, because it ups the cost by something like 5,000 yen, which is about like $45 or $50 per console.
Right,
so,
which is a lot.
So yeah, it really eats into their profit margins, but they considered it worth it to get more Switch into the hands of as many people as they could.
Well, and I think this last week is when we started to actually see like Switches showing up in shops again. Like Amazon had them on Thursday, Best Buy's had them on Friday.
Yeah, the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe launch kind of seemed like a relaunch, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, when I feel like we're going to see so many of those like soft relaunch moments. Like I think we're going to see that going into Splatoon, and I think we're definitely going to see it going into the holiday season. But it's cool that they like had some kind of solution that they were like, we need to get some more of these out in the world.
We're probably also seeing now like the that stock that they were shipping, because it's starting in April. They haven't really been air shipping as much.
Yeah.
So we're probably starting to see the stock come in that was on shipping containers. Just taking longer to like come over. Also, we got some updated numbers on Zelda. Okay, so the Switch itself, consoles have shipped 2.74 million, like we said. Switch software has moved 5.46 million units, including Zelda at 3.84 million, although that includes Switch and Wii U. 1-2 Switch is nearly at 1 million copies. Snipper Clips, 350,000, which low in my estimation.
People are sleeping on this game, Mark.
It's one of my favorite launch games. So
yeah, I mean it is certainly a launch game that you need to have someone else in the room that you're going to play the game with.
That's true.
So like, if you're not a like physically in-person social gamer, if you don't live with anyone, I could see where Snipper Clips wouldn't be the most attractive thing. But
and then Super Bomberman R has sold 500,000 units,
which I guess kind of surprising. That's who's buying Super Bomberman R?
It seems surprising to me too, but I guess I never liked it as a kid.
Yeah.
So maybe if I did, I'd be more inclined to pick it up. We also learned that Super Mario Run has been downloaded almost 150 million times.
Zelda has been purchased 3.84 million times. Mario Run has been downloaded 150 million times.
So that's across iOS and Android. But we learned that the purchase rate is less than their 10% goal. So they wanted to see about 10% of those 150 million downloads convert into $10 purchases, but that hasn't happened.
Do we know how many have turned into purchases?
I don't know.
Fewer than 15 million.
Yeah,
it would seem.
In Japan, Fire Emblem Heroes has been much more successful.
Yeah, I mean, just overall, it is a money making like that the structure. That's how you make money on mobile, right? Is with a game like Fire Emblem. You find the people that are gonna spend hundreds of dollars. Find your whales, man. Find your whales.
Yeah, with the Switch launch, it feels less exciting to talk about Nintendo mobile initiatives, but
Right.
we know that they have more coming out, so it'll be interesting to see where Animal Crossing. Because, I mean, Animal Crossing seems perfect for the Fire Emblem Heroes model.
Yeah, absolutely perfect.
But they've said that their preference is the Super Mario Run model, so we'll see what ends up happening there. Also this week, Reggie Fils-Aimé,
Yeah, you're right.
was talking about the NES Classic Edition and said that it has sold 2.3 million worldwide before being discontinued. And I'm not sure if that counts the Super or the Famicom Mini.
You think it was just the NES Classic that discontinued after 2.3 million?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like if you were talking about the NES Classic and the Famicom Mini, you would
break them up.
They're not the same thing.
One of them's got Final Fantasy 2 and the other one's got Final Fantasy 1. All right, that's enough of that.
So I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, is it? It's so few, and for something that should have been like a no-brainer, grab it anywhere you are for $60. Like, they could have sold so many of those things.
Yeah. Probably the most unexpected announcement, at least for me, of the week was the new 2DS XL.
Yeah, let's talk about this thing forever, Mark. So, okay, super successful Switch launch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, people are talking about the Switch. People are talking about Breath of the Wild. Switch and Nintendo, it's the wave of the future. Everyone's excited about it. And then Nintendo's like, oh, by the way, we still have all these 3DS games coming out. And we're kind of like, okay, all right.
That makes sense. 3DS has a big user base.
It's got a huge install base, and, you know, that's a good, like, swan song year for the console. And then they announce new hardware. What does this mean?
So first of all, I think the 2DS XL is cool.
I think you and I have talked about wanting that on this show before.
Yeah.
The new 2DS.
And, you know, they talked about how only, you know, like around, 10% of Nintendo 3DS owners had a 2DS, which makes sense because the actual 2DS itself is fine and in a lot of ways a great console, but it definitely feels cheap. You know, it's not the premium experience.
Right. Well, and it also, I mean, there's something about it not having the clamshell design that also makes it feel like a less durable good, you know? That, like, that thing's going to get thrown, it's going to get scratched, it seems more vulnerable than something that closes.
Yeah, the 2DS, like, I like the design of the new 2DS XL. I personally care nothing about 3D.
Right.
So, and it's going to be $150, which is $50 cheaper than a new Nintendo 3DS XL. So, there's an amazing back library. Even if Nintendo doesn't release any more 3DS games, which
is just not true. Like, this thing is releasing alongside is it called Hey Pikmin?
Should have been called Yo Pikmin.
Yo Pikmin.
And Miitopia.
Right. So both those games are coming out essentially along with it, right?
Yeah, I think the same day, July 28th.
July 28th. It's a little bit weird to me that this is coming out so far after Fire Emblem. Because when I saw this announced originally, I was like, oh, that would be great. I'll get one of these things and I'll play Fire Emblem on it. But now there's going to be like 2 months here.
Well, what's the
3 months?
Why would you get one?
So,
because you have the regular 3.
I do have a 3DS XL, new 3DS XL. But it is showing like just signs of wear. Like there are scratches on the screen. I never got a screen protector for it. And the D-pad, the left button on the D-pad sticks. So like, I've put in a bunch of time on it, and I in no way feel like the machine has slighted me or that it hasn't served it. It has served well. I am pleased with the machine. But uh, I've been looking for a replacement for it, and have just never been able to find one. And I've been thinking about doing just like the regular 3DS, the new 3DS, not XL, just to make it a smaller package. But the new 2DSs look so slick that I would be happy with that as a solution too.
If I was in the market for a new 3DS product,
Yes,
I would get this
in a heartbeat, right?
But I am just not interested enough in continuing to game on the 3DS
Yeah,
to warrant the purchase, I think. I think they keep talking about new games and more support, and it's possible I will be proven wrong in the future, but I still believe it's half-hearted support. I still believe it's projects like Hey Pikmin, which are farmed out to another company,
sure.
maybe using Nintendo IP, but I don't know that we're going to see their A teams on 3DS projects.
Right. Well, there's another Kirby game out there on the horizon, unnamed multiplayer Kirby game that we don't know about yet.
Yeah, but again, that's HAL Laboratory. That's not
right.
Nintendo's resources itself. And but I think the new Nintendo 2DS XL is a great product because again, they have this huge back library of games.
Yeah.
The new 3DS is still impossible to get, and that's what I don't understand is again, we talk a lot about like logistics, like Nintendo not being great at logistics.
Right.
And the 3DS has been impossible to find for months now, like since before Pokemon came out.
Right.
And so they left a ton of money on the table by not having more of those available over the holidays.
For sure, but I think that's part of what the new 2DS is about. Because remember, Pokemon doesn't play in 3D, right? There's no 3D effects in Pokemon, but it does run better on a new 3DS than it does on the old 3DS.
I guess what I'm saying is I don't understand why whatever resources were being dedicated to the 2DS, to the new 2DS, weren't just dedicated to pumping out more 3DSs.
Well, I think that's it though, is that like they need something at this price point and not at the $200 price point.
So that's another thing Reggie talked about, was that he felt like there was room in between, or they saw that there was room in between the $200 3DS XL and the super cheap
$80
2DS.
Yeah.
And so that's where this fits in. And I see that. I wonder, do you think this is like a Game Boy Micro situation where it's like the last hardware revision of kind of a sunsetting system? Or do you think this is intended to keep it going for many years to come? Because to me, it kind of feels like they were hedging their bets with the Switch. And it's like, well, if this launches a little bit soft,
yeah,
we have this in the chamber. But then Switch came blazing out of the gates and they still have it and it's great. And the 3DS is a great system with a great library.
Yeah.
But it just feels less compelling now.
I mean, I think they'll just have to see, right? Like Nintendo's not going to, if this thing sells really well and people are still buying a bunch of 3DS games, they're not going to leave it alone, right? I think it is a distinct enough machine from the Switch that there will be people continuing to play on these things. There is still something easier about closing a 3DS or the new 2DS, just closing it and throwing it in your bag. That is not at all like the Switch, which even though like you can take it with you anywhere you want to go, it feels more like something you want to be careful with, right? I've got a case for my Switch now, but I'm still very like precious with it, whereas with the 3DS, I'll throw it on the couch. Like I don't throw it in my backpack. It doesn't really matter.
One of the nice things about this new 2DS is that if you get it, you're not really sacrificing anything other than the 3D.
Right.
Which is before
Fine.
When you're getting the 2DS, you didn't get the second little analog nub thingy.
Yeah.
Or
the second shoulder buttons, or the third and fourth shoulder buttons, I guess.
Or you're running on outdated hardware. so it was painfully slow.
Yeah. Although it is interesting, one of the like advertised improvements of the new 3DS was its ability to track your eyes and your face position to adjust the 3D to where you were. It's interesting that the new 2DS wouldn't have that because it doesn't have the 3D. So it also doesn't have this ability to make the 3D better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but why would it have it?
I mean, of course it wouldn't. I'm just saying, like, there are only so many things. There are 4 things that the new 3DS did that the regular 3DS didn't, and knocking it down to 2DS, it's like, well, okay, that improvement, we're just taking that away.
Yeah, that's true, but it's also $50 cheaper.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pokemon Stars, if it's real, right? This is the rumored Pokemon iteration where they combine Sun and Moon into one complete package like they have done in the past. The rumor originally was that it was in development for Switch. Do you think it's actually in development for the 3DS, or because that would be quite the hardware leap, or do you think it's cross-platform? What do you think the deal is, if it's real at all?
I think it would be pretty crazy for it to be a Switch game, right? Like, the Switch, you're going to be putting that up on TVs, right? Like, I think Sun and Moon look great, but they look great on this tiny screen. And I just don't know if it's ready to go up on a large TV, or if that's like, I think if there's a Switch Pokemon, that we'll see that with like a new generation or like a new something. I just don't think they're going to do a straight port anymore. I think there was a long time where I was thinking that's what they were going to do, and that they'd be like, no, if you want to play the new Pokemon, you got to do it on Switch. But now, I don't know. It's just so at home on the 3DS that I would bet Stars is coming to
it would be so much work to make Pokemon Sun and Moon run in high definition in like 1080p. There is something just like my gut. It's a little disappointing to me if it is just on the 3DS.
Yeah, I mean,
but it makes total sense logically.
Yeah, and Pokemon has a like track record of sticking with the older hardware that has a larger install base. Just because, I mean, part of the Pokemon metagame is just the number of people playing the game affects how you play the game, right? Like, it needs a big install base. It needs a lot of people playing it. And, you know, if they're like, okay, there are 60 million 3DSs and 3 million Switches, it's an easy choice for them, right?
Yeah, I think you're probably right. When it comes down to it, our best, if you're looking for Pokemon on the Switch, your best hope is probably whatever the 2018 iteration is.
Yeah.
Because they've basically been pumping these things out yearly. I still kind of hope it ends up on the Switch, but I guess we'll see.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I want to play all games on the Switch.
Yeah, me too. And that includes, and I mean all games. Not games. Just Nintendo.
Put any game on the Switch.
It makes the PS4 feel archaic. That I can't just pick it up and take it to bed. Because I know, lovingly, carry it across the threshold. Right? I'm a gentleman.
And then lay it down on a bed of rose petals.
Yeah. But, because, look, I know that the PS4 is more powerful graphically and it does things that the Switch cannot do.
You're not a fool.
But, no, I know this. But the Switch is good enough.
Yeah.
And I think that, and, you know, and I absolutely know that there are people who are like the graphic fidelity is more important to them than it is to me. Mm-hmm. But for me, like what the Switch is capable of is like good enough.
Yeah.
And so, I want every game on this.
So if Pokemon were to come to it, it'd be a different story. I'd be like, I'm changing my tune. This was the right move. Nintendo was right all along. But honestly, I think the Pokemon Company kicks so much money into Nintendo's coffers that they get to make the call, almost certainly.
Well, in either way, it'll be a huge success.
Yeah.
Genyo Takeda, I'm sure I'm saying this wrong, is retiring from his full-time role as representative director and technology fellow at Nintendo. He'll be retiring in June. Takeda is a Nintendo legend who has been with the company since the 70s. Ooh. And in addition to leading a lot of hardware design efforts, He was the director and producer of games such as Star Tropics, Punch-Out, and Pilot Wing 64. So he'll remain on as an advisor for a time, but yeah, it's kind of, we're seeing a lot of that generation of Nintendo.
That old guard kind of turnover. Yeah, it's always interesting when like people's credits get kind of trotted out, and just to see that these, like Star Tropics, Punch Out, and Pilot Wings, those are none of the like big marquee Nintendo titles, but like they're all very important to Nintendo history in their own way. And this is Star Tropics less, but like that those are all part of what gives the company its identity. I don't know. It like gets me excited for the kind of games that Nintendo makes, and just to know that there will be, generations upon generations of these people coming up through the company and being responsible for games like that. I don't know. I like the company. I like what they do.
And I think it's always interesting when you have this kind of changing of the guard, where the people who are developing games for Nintendo now are people who played Nintendo games growing up, not, like they didn't exist in a vacuum.
Right. Whereas Takeda here was helping to make it up as they went along, right? Like when Punch-Out came out, there wasn't something like Punch-Out yet,
And I think one of the challenges that any company faces, but Nintendo faces, is being able to still innovate.
Yes.
And not just in hardware, but in games as well. And I think that's where like ARMS and Splatoon kind of show those efforts.
Yeah, absolutely. And, they've got so much, again, just from these three examples, Star Tropics, Punch-Out, and Pilot Wings, like other things that they could reach back to that are old enough that the ideas may almost seem new. Like if there was a new Pilot Wings game, it could be anything. Like I have no expectations for what a 2017-2018's Pilot Wings game would be. And absolutely no idea what a modern Star Tropics would be.
Well, could you imagine, how
Star Tropics Breath of the Wild?
Basically, like Star Tropics was based on,
it
was basically a westernized version of The Legend of Zelda, taking that same idea, those same mechanics, that same engine, and just putting it in like Star Tropics.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Why not?
I'd play it all day.
Nintendo has confirmed that they won't be holding a live press conference at E3.
Not a surprise.
Not a surprise. Who's surprised? Not us, because they haven't done it for the past several years, opting instead for like a Nintendo Direct style live stream. And they always have a presence on the show floor anyways. So who cares?
Who is what is not news, Mark.
I mean, last year, again, they did the same thing. The only thing they had at their booth was Breath of the Wild, and people were sprinting in the mornings when the show floor opened to be able to get in line for that game. So
yeah, and I mean, honestly, like anytime we see Nintendo dudes on stage, like trying to sell us stuff, where it's a little weird.
It doesn't work great because, I mean, just like we saw with the Switch presentation.
Yes.
They are more comfortable in speaking Japanese.
Right.
And there's that whole translation filter, and it like when you're making these big presentations, it's about pacing and excitement, and that's just it's a difficult thing to juggle. I think Nintendo Directs are a great way to.
Yeah, and Nintendo's got such a weird sense of humor as it is, and they refuse to not be funny in their presentations. So when there's like this, it's a stage thing and it's in a different language and there's a translator, like none of it comes through the translation. So like, fine, direct.
And then on top of that, you're like, if you're live streaming it to the world, it's removed another step.
Yes.
So it just gets to be too much.
Also, look, these are video game developers and Japanese businessmen. They are not professional comedians. We're asking a lot of these guys. So let's just let's package it up in a nice little YouTube video. We'll all watch it from the comfort of our homes in our pajamas. And we'll like that.
Yeah. Nintendo has also released information on what will be included in Breath of the Wild's first DLC update.
I had not heard this yet, Mark. This is exciting.
Due this summer. They just kind of dropped the news a couple hours ago. So I'm just going to kind of go straight from the press release on this.
Great.
Trial of the Sword was originally known as Cave of Trials Challenge. It's kind of like their horde mode thing. So by accessing this location, players can challenge the new Trial of the Sword, where enemies appear one after another. Link starts out without any weapons or armor, and if he defeats all of the enemies in the room, he can proceed to the next area. Trial of the Sword will include about 45 total rooms for players to complete. When Link clears all of the trials, the true power of the Master Sword will awaken and always be in its glowing, powered-up state.
So that's pretty big, right? Because when it's glowing and powered up, it's like attack level 60, right? Versus 30 not glowing. That could be fun. So it's like Eventide rules where it strips you of armor and weapons.
That's what it seems like.
Yeah.
And then as you defeat enemies, you'll be able to like gather their armor and stuff.
Yeah, I like that.
Hard mode. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is already considered one of the most thrilling games in the Legend of Zelda series. Should I read this up? I'm not.
Yeah, no.
I'm going to kind of like...
Yeah.
Okay, so in hard mode, the ranks of enemies in the game are increased. So like red bokoblins become blue bokoblins.
Oh, okay.
There's rumors of like a gold bokoblin or something, so even more difficult. And players might even encounter higher ranking enemies they wouldn't find through normal play. Enemies will also slowly recover health in battle, forcing you to defeat them more quickly. They will also more easily spot Link as he approaches them. And floating planks held aloft by balloons will be scattered around Hyrule. By successfully reaching these planks, players can battle enemies and collect treasure.
What?
Yeah, they released some screenshots of it, and it's just like, 4 planks of wood make a square with like balloons on all 4 sides that have like lifted it up.
It sounds to me like Tingle is up to no good here.
Well, they have I'm
Am
skip down to that new equipment. So 8 new pieces of equipment inspired by previous characters and games in the Legend of it. Games in the series will be added. They will yield equipment themed after fan favorite games and characters such as Midna, Tingle, Phantom, and Majora's Mask. There's the whole Tingle armor that's Tingle's suit that you can get.
Yes. Tingle! Also, I'm genuinely excited about the Midna stuff. I always like Midna a lot.
So there's the Heroes Path mode, and this is when we were like, oh, what can they possibly add to the in-game map? What's that about? So that's what this is. Basically what it is, to help with tracking progress, the new Heroes Path mode will document every step players take and mark their path in green on the map. The route taken will be tracked for the player's last 200 hours of playtime, with an included slider to track footsteps on a timeline. This even works retroactively, so players that have already put many hours into the game will be able to see where they have traveled. This feature will help in identifying the locations they haven't visited in this vast world, and may help players find those shrines they haven't encountered yet.
So this is the answer to my question about the remaining 30 shrines that you have to find. If you can retrace all of your footsteps and see, oh, I haven't been over here, that's amazing.
Yeah, it actually seems really helpful, and that it's retroactive.
So that means they're already remembering every step you've taken?
I mean, that makes sense to me. In when they were doing like playtesting, they talked about that. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if that was like a metric that they were keeping track of.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's cool. And I haven't put 200 hours into the game, but that's pretty incredible.
How is there a way to see how many hours you've put into the game?
I think I don't know. The only thing I know of is on the Switch is like in your personal profile.
Yeah.
And it tells you like more than 50 hours. That's the only place I know.
Yeah, I wish there was something that said, because I feel like I've been playing the game forever. Still no complaints. But I feel like I've been playing it for a very long time.
There's also going to be a travel medallion, which will be in a treasure chest somewhere. And what it does is if you're wearing it, it allows you to put your own travel spot on the map.
Okay.
And you can only have one at a time. So it's like if you're in an area that was difficult to get to and not really close to any shrines or other things you can warp to, you could set your own.
That's handy. Although I feel like is less handy the more you play the game, because like there end up not being too many places that don't have a shrine buried in them somewhere.
That's true, but occasionally like scale a really high mountain.
Yeah.
Or something. Also, one thing I really like that I did mention before about like those floating platforms is that so much of this game, what makes it cool is the verticality.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fun that they're like extending that and playing with that idea.
Yeah. No, I like that a lot.
Then the last thing is the Korok mask, and by finding the new Korok mask, players will have a much easier time finding Korok locations in the game. When equipped, the mask will shake, indicating that a Korok is hidden somewhere nearby. Seems like you'd basically be shaking all the time.
Yeah, how many Korok seeds do you have?
Not that many, less than 100.
Yeah, me too. Which means that we're finding like less than 10, probably about 10% of these
Yeah,
things.
it feels like you should not be able to like turn a corner without your mask shaking.
Yeah.
But I also haven't been seeking them out really.
I mean, whenever I see that stump with the leaf on it, I stand on it and try to do whatever it wants me to do. Whenever I see a circle of stones or lily pads, I do that. Whenever I see a rock chained to something, I do that.
Yeah, but I'm not like specifically being like, and now I'm going to go find Korok seeds.
Yeah. But there's no time where like I've got that turned off. Basically, like I'm always sort of aware that that's something I should be paying attention to.
So this summer update is fun. To me, it feels like it's a reason. I mean, it's what DLC is, which is a reason for people who have already beat the game to come back in and play some more, because it, a lot of this stuff, for kind of breaks the reality of the game.
Sure. Yeah.
And additionally, having like an OP Master Sword makes the game like way easier and different.
And because it's going to be, if it's that strong and still is being swung like the Master Sword, which means you can hold the shield at the same time and it's fast. Yeah, that'll be way OP.
So it really just feels like a reward for people who have already put a lot of time into the game to come back, which is not a bad thing.
No. I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't there something about there being an extra dungeon or something like that?
So there's supposed to be more story stuff, but that's in the fall update or like the Christmas update. So maybe that's where that was as well.
Got it. Well, I mean, this is exciting if this is all part of the first of 2 DLC updates. So.
And remember, you can't buy them separately.
Right.
It's just $20 and then you get everything. I haven't actually purchased it yet.
I have not picked up my Switch shirt in the game. I should.
How does that work? Where do you get it?
I don't know. I don't know. I think it's on the Great Plateau somewhere.
Like, right. I thought just like treasure chest like dropped or something. Yeah, I haven't bought it yet. I depending on when this comes out, it seems conceivable that I could still be
just playing the game. Yeah.
The other thing that is actually released today, just a few hours ago, or yesterday, of course, since you're listening to this on Tuesday, right when it comes out,
which you are.
Mm-hmm. Dual language,
sharing, subscribing.
Dual language audio becomes available in 9 languages. So before it was possible to access other countries' languages, but you had to like switch your region on the Switch.
Okay.
But now it became like most other games that offer dual audio, where you just go into the settings and you can say, I want Japanese voices with English subtitles.
I may try that because I'm not enamored with the voice acting in this game, particularly Zelda.
Yeah, I don't love it either. I think it's fine, but
yeah.
I think I will probably try that. For some reason, the super like cartoony voice acting doesn't bother me as much in Japanese because I don't understand what they're saying.
Absolutely. I'm with you 100% there. It's just like the other day when you and I were playing Persona and we were like, oh boy, some of the writing is like iffy enough and the performances are iffy enough that like if this were just in Japanese and I had like a little bit of a barrier to understanding it, great. Like I would be so much more for it.
Yeah. I think I might do the same, but it's available in any of the languages they have voice acting for. So I think that includes like French, German. Like,
oh, sure.
They're all open options.
Languages we may be closer to understanding at least a little bit.
I mean, I think it's cool that they're offering this.
Mm-hmm. Agree.
Yeah. So that's out today. Ooh, it's getting hot in here. More news.
We've got so much news, and it's only getting hotter in here.
The heat is rising, and the episode.
Oh, did you want me to not have the heat on?
No, it's fine. You can leave it on.
Then the campfire is
okay,
right?
We'll get a good sweat. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, okay,
of course.
Good.
And what about the space heater that I brought from home?
Oh, yeah. Don't you dare unplug that.
Right.
I'm just going to pour some water over these hot coals.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Oh, also outside, I have a football team who just finished practice. Should I let them in?
They can
okay,
come
great.
in.
Just a second.
Yeah. Come on in, guys.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
make
no,
yourself
there's
at home.
not. I mean, if you could just not on the carpet, like just be over here by Mark and I. Yeah, okay, all right. It's a little cozy. We're a little.
It's
We're
a
a little
little
bit
tight,
warm.
but it's fine. We're doing good. Okay, so Koei Tecmo, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Okay. They've been one of the biggest third-party supporters of Switch so far. In Japan, they have like a handful of games out with some more announced. Um, this week they announced even like more plans for Switch in vague terms. They talked about it as part of like multi-platform releases, and also they have more Switch exclusive games coming. So
it's interesting to see that kind of support from. I feel like we're still mostly seeing that from Japanese developers. Koei Tecmo being a good example of that.
If you're a Japanese developer, it just makes business sense
Sure.
to get on the Switch, especially if you're looking at how the Switch is selling compared to other home consoles of the past 5 years, and you're seeing the future, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Because you're seeing the Vita sales slowly. I mean, it's an old system at this point.
Right.
The PS4 never really took off in Japan. The Wii U never took off in Japan. The Xbox One is a joke, selling like a handful of units every week. So if you're a Japanese developer looking for the future of home consoles, you're looking at the Switch.
Right.
So yeah, it makes sense to see that. In the same sense, from Capcom's earnings reports, we saw that they include Switch in like future multi-platform development.
Man, that good, because like I just want to see like the real Capcom games on this thing. Like I'm excited about Ultra Street Fighter 2, but
what does that even mean for Capcom anymore though?
Real Capcom games? I guess I don't know. I did say that, and as the words tumbled out of my mouth, I was like, since 2007, I don't know what that means. Like,
they ruined Dead Rising.
Yeah. And they did put out a Dead Rising on the Wii or Wii U.
They did, yeah. Chop Till You Drop.
Yeah.
Ooh. That was a remake of the first game,
which is the best game in the series.
Totally agree. They like Lost Planet isn't a thing anymore.
Yeah.
Resident Evil,
they do have Resident Evil, and they've kind of fixed it.
I mean, their sales were less than they expected,
for sure,
and a huge step down from 6. So I mean, people, even though we don't like it as Resident Evil fans, what their best-selling Resident Evil games have been 5 and 6.
Yeah, and 6 by a
long shot.
Long shot, yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what I mean when
I
say
mean it's exciting in theory.
Right. Look, I just want Mega Man and Street Fighter. I want a new Power Stone game. I think that's only going to happen on Switch.
Some more rapid fire game and title announcements. Shaq Fu: A Legend Reborn is in development for Switch.
All right, fine.
Additionally, Saber Interactive is bringing some other unnamed games in the future. That eShop exclusive Switch game that's coming this summer, the Project Mikuru,
right? That they showed at the
where you like
direct.
butt stomp to make the tiles change.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like it has a real name now called Battle Sports Mikuru.
Okay, so we talked about this game 2 weeks ago, and suddenly it's got a new name.
Sure,
2 weeks. It took
maybe they had the meeting last week. Somebody has to sign off on it. Maybe it just took time.
It's just so weird that they were like, put out a video where we're showing it off. I'll tell you what the name is in a second.
I mean, I'll remind you that during the Fire Emblem Direct, they announced that Fire Emblem Heroes was coming to Android first and iOS at a later date, and then literally minutes later corrected that video.
Right, that they were like, oh no, same time.
So
yeah, you're right. No one knows what's going on.
So this feels less weird to me. Like, this feels right. I feel at ease.
Okay, 2 whole weeks here. We're fine.
NBA Playgrounds comes out next week, May 9th. That's like the NBA Jam type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Through data mining of the 3DS eShop, someone found data for a Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga DX. Maybe like a remake of the first game in the Mario and Luigi series. A series that feels not very loved.
No, but I think the earlier entries in the series are pretty well loved, right?
And again, I feel like this is one of those projects where Yeah, it's a new 3DS title, but
Meh.
farmed out to a B team,
Right.
but something that they can announce.
Also, there aren't really DS games on the 3DS, right?
I don't think so.
That seems like such a mistake. Those games should just be on the 3DS store, digital store, I mean.
Yeah, it does seem like a huge mistake, and that they kind of should have been there since day one.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Should have been there since day one. But I think especially knowing that they're on the Wii U eShop. Like,
Oh yeah, because they've done all the work then.
yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to
Yeah.
me. Finally, in its first day on the market, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe sold over 459,000 copies in the US. That figure accounts for packaged and digital sales, and it's the fastest selling game in Mario Kart history, outselling the Wii by about 20,000 copies.
And that's just day one.
That's
then,
just
right?
day one. So that means Mario Kart 8 Deluxe in the US on day one has an attach rate of 45%.
Amazing. But also, like, if you have a Switch and you're not buying Mario Kart 8, like, I suppose they're still playing Zelda. And fine. So we all are. But, like, get Mario Kart, man.
Well, I mean, it's crazy because
Maybe day 2 purchase?
yeah, day 2 purchase. Like I don't. So yes, it's off to its biggest start, but there's only so much room, it can sell in the immediate.
Right.
But clearly there is pent up demand for Mario Kart. And that's from probably people who didn't buy Mario Kart 8 when it first came out, including myself because I didn't own a Wii U.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great game that's been super well received. But obviously this game isn't going to track the trajectory of the Wii version because there just aren't that many Switches out there.
Right. It can only sell as many as there are machines to play it.
But over the lifetime of the system, you already have 2 great Nintendo games. If you're picking this up now, you know.
And if you're picking it up now, less than 2 months into its lifespan, you've already got a great library to choose from.
It also was the #1 title in the UK, which hasn't happened for a Nintendo title since 2011.
It's pretty exciting.
I mean, again, like the UK is probably one of Nintendo's weakest territories.
Mm-hmm.
And so do you think these numbers, do they affect any ideas you have about what ARMS is capable of doing?
Oh.
Do you think that there's just so much pent up for demand for games, like for big, like
AAA games?
Yeah. Or do you think it's Mario Kart specific?
I mean, it is hard to discount the specific draw that Mario Kart has. Because man, people just like Mario Kart. The series has been around for so long that everyone has positive memories of playing it, right? Whereas literally no one has positive memories of playing ARMS. Probably there are people who have played it that have positive memories, but yeah, I don't know that it necessarily equates for me. Like when ARMS comes out, Splatoon will be out within a month. And I think if there's excitement around the new Nintendo stuff, it'll be around Splatoon more than ARMS.
I feel like we're in an echo chamber of Nintendo fans, obviously.
Yeah, sure.
So in my Twitter feed and all this kind of stuff, I see a lot of fan art for ARMS and people excited about those characters. But again, it's hard for me to tell if that is a more a general excitement or a very specific to like my Nintendo focused feed. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and I think there's also a difference between like being excited about new characters or like the fact that Nintendo has new IP and actually being interested in the game that features those characters. But I mean, you raise a good point that like, are we just hungry for that level of software, and are people going to pick up ARMS just because they want to experience it? And if it is something that explodes, like that they want to be a part of it or whatever. Like you and I, we've talked about this, that we'll probably go splitsies on a copy of ARMS.
Yeah, because neither of us are super excited about it.
Neither of us are super excited about it, but if we don't play it, and if we don't play it like right when it comes out, we're going to feel like we're missing some part of the, capital S, capital E Switch experience. So
And there are a lot of games. I think like the Switch has a really, I think, strong library for 2 months.
Yeah, agreed.
But a lot of it comes from indies, which don't get the glossy like magazine spreads that a Mario Kart 8 or a ARMS is going to get. And so I do think there's something to those like marquee titles.
Yeah, I don't really want to play a game if it hasn't been featured on the cover of a magazine.
Or at least a two-page spread in the middle.
Yeah, or one of those like threefold things.
Oh, yeah.
Like that you could tear off and it would be like a poster.
Absolutely.
For your treehouse.
I know what you're talking about.
Thank you.
New releases. That's right. We've come to the end of news.
By the way, that wasn't like a centerfold joke. I wasn't making like a Playboy centerfold joke.
Oh, no, it's fine. I know you're a pervert.
All right. No, Mark, that's not what I was doing.
It's fine.
Sounds like you didn't hear me at all.
I don't mind. It's fine. Tumbleseed comes out on May 2nd. Still don't really understand what this is. I watched a trailer. There's co-op. It kind of appears to be a that sounded more dismissive than I
co-op.
That sounded more dismissive than I intended. But I
still don't understand.
I don't understand it. People are excited for it, but I don't understand it.
Someone needs to put this game in my hands, and then I'll experience it, and then I'll go back to playing Puyo Puyo Tetris.
I watched a trailer, and I still don't entirely understand what this game is or how it works.
Right.
But part of me feels like Principal Skinner, where it's like, am I out of touch?
No,
it's the children who are wrong. And that's kind of how I feel on this, but yeah, somebody explain this game to me.
I'll stand with you. It's the children who are wrong.
Great. That's two of us.
Two of us old men.
Blazing Star is the Neo Geo game of the week.
Mm-hmm.
And last week we talked about Constructor was supposed to come out on 28th of April, but now it pulled a Pocket Rumble and it's just a summer release date. So what are you going to do?
Why'd you have to bring up Pocket Rumble?
Hopefully soon.
Release date TBD. Mark, let's get out of the news. Now it's time for a regular segment on our show. It's time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So for the duration of one performance of 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Mark, let's talk about car stuff.
Car stuff.
Welcome to Car Stuff. This
is Tick and Talk.
The clever. Wait, these are the worst impressions I've ever heard.
I actually think it's pretty good.
Okay. You wanted to talk about this because you got tires.
Yeah, I got new tires on my car.
I also recently got new tires on my car.
Where did you go?
There is a Pep Boys on San Fernando Road over here by my house.
Mm-hmm.
So I
didn't realize they did car maintenance. I assumed they were just like an AutoZone type thing where it was just car parts.
See, here I assume that AutoZone will also work on your car.
No, not true as far as I know.
Yeah, where did you go?
I went to Costco.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It was a fine enough experience. They had to So I was left a note on my car like a couple of weeks ago from somebody being like, you need to get your tires replaced. I know nothing about cars. We should totally, I know zero about cars.
Right. Don't drive like my brother.
Yeah. Stick here. Clackety clack.
Are they tick and tack?
No, they're click and clack.
Okay.
I think they're click and clack. Or were. They're not dead, but I don't think they do car talk anymore.
One of them's dead.
Oh. Click or clack?
I don't know.
I don't either.
I'm not even sure these are their names.
I'm pretty sure they are. Anyways, they left it. A nice person left a note on my car being like, you need to get your tires replaced. So I went in and they didn't have the tires in my size. So they had to order them. And the guy was really nonchalant about it. So, but I had been driving around for a few days being like, oh, my tires could explode at any moment.
Right. Which would be a terrifying thing to happen.
Yeah. But then I drove on them for a whole nother week. Basically,
Right.
What I'm saying are tires are really well designed. That you can be driving on dangerous tires and still be totally fine.
Right. In a city like Los Angeles, where you need to do
Just a hellscape.
just a hellscape. You need to do constant braking because people are stopping in front of you. People are running in front of your cars and washing your windshield. You got to really act fast.
Just a nightmare.
It's a nightmare.
So yeah. Otherwise, pleasant experience. Loved it.
s- aside from the hellscape, I loved it. So here's the thing that's happened to my car recently. The door handle on the driver's side on the inside has broken off.
Oh.
Broke off in my hand one day, and I can no longer open my car door from the inside. So now, every time
It's like you're in a cop car. It's like you're a criminal in your own car.
and I'm driving, they're letting the criminals drive the car.
It's a TV show pitch. Criminal cop.
Half cop, half criminal. Can't leave his car. So yeah, every time I stop the car, it becomes this little dance where I try to open the door, remember there's no handle anymore, turn the car back on, roll the window down, reach out, open it, hold it open with my foot, turn the car off, and then roll up the window, then turn the car off. And at any point I could mess up the order of these steps and have to do it all over again. And I don't know that or when I'm going to fix this.
So yeah, when it comes to cars, I just don't care. So I'm incredibly cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm driving pretty much like a piece of junk.
Yeah,
but
we both are.
But it's a functional piece of junk.
Do you?
So I see no reason to replace it.
Right, because like at some point you will be made to replace it.
Yeah,
right.
And then I'll do it then.
Right. Do you get like the cards in under your windshield wipers that are like, we buy junk cars?
Yes, and I originally began to think, Phil, it was targeted.
Do you think it is not?
No, I think they go down the street and they put it in everybody's.
It's hard not to take that personal.
Oh, it definitely was, because it's like, look, it's like somebody making fun of the way you look. Because it's like, yeah, I know I'm ugly, but I don't need you saying that to me. Right? It's like, yeah, I know I drive a piece of junk car.
Right. I don't need someone else saying, hey, your car's a piece of junk, but we'll even buy your crappy car.
Right.
Turn it into a cube. I don't know what they do with those cars.
Metal has to be worth something, right?
Metal has got to be worth something, yeah.
But the thing with cars in general is I have no idea how much anything should cost.
Yeah.
Like, I have no concept. When if somebody needs to replace something in my car, whatever price they quote me is truth, because it's like I have no context for this.
Yeah, I remember buying my car in the first place, and I was joined by my parents who were like, "We'll help. This is your first car buying experience. You shouldn't be alone on this." But they were terrible because neither of them wanted to negotiate on the price at all. And I was
That's the whole point of having your parents go with you.
Right? Like, I don't just need someone there to be with me as I lose money. Thanks. But they didn't want to negotiate at all. And so I was like, I'm just going to throw out another number. So I named another number, and the guy was like, where are you getting that number from? And I was just like, I would just like to pay that. And now
we'll never know if you actually paid that price or not.
We were accompanied today by the Sinfónica Conservatorio Nacional de Quito, Ecuador. Oops, that was a weird set of sounds. Mark, let's move out of this segment. Which brings us, of course, to our topic for the show. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Mark, your thoughts on the game?
I was super excited to get it because, like most people, genuinely most people, I really love Mario Kart.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really like racing games. I don't really like other kart racing games.
Interesting.
And I think that's mostly because Mario Kart was a game we got with our 64. I didn't play the Super Nintendo version all that often, over at friends' house and stuff, but we never owned it. The 64 was the first one I had, loved it, and it was just kind of like, why do I ever need another kart racer? And so it was that thing where you try other kart racers, and it's like being over at your friend's house where it's fine, but you don't want to sleep there because you're like, but I'm comfortable at home.
Right.
That's how I'm with Mario Kart.
I want my own towels.
Yeah.
Your grandma smells weird.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Yeah.
I get that. I'm a big fan of kart racers just in general. I really like Diddy Kong Racing, Sonic Team Racing, Mod Nation Racers. I think is one of the best kart racers there is on the PlayStation 3. But yeah, huge Mario Kart fan. And I have a lot of experience with Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U. That's hands down the Wii U game that I've put the most time into. I checked it sometime in the last couple months just to see how many hours I'd put into that game, and it's close to 200 hours of Mario Kart 8
And
that I've already put in.
so the only time that I've played Mario Kart 8 was at your house.
Yeah, that tracks.
And it was a great game, but I think I'm appreciating it more now.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about like how you approached, because I think we probably have different approaches to like what we want to do in this game first, right?
Yeah, so I've actually been spending a lot of my time in battle mode,
Okay.
or like online in battle
mhm.
mode. And I don't know how the Wii U version existed without it, because it's super fun.
Yeah.
And battle mode is one of the main reasons that I play Mario Kart.
See, that's interesting because for me, I like just the straight up racing, and I feel like there hasn't been a compelling version of battle mode maybe since Double Dash. Like it's not good on the Wii, and I feel like it was always kind of clumsy in the DS and 3DS versions of the game, and then just like downright bad in vanilla Mario Kart 8. So like I don't know. At some point, I just sort of let the idea of there being a functioning battle mode go. Like I haven't put any emotional energy into wanting it in decades. And a lot of those other games don't, Sonic Team Racing and Mod Nation Racers, they don't have a battle mode at all. They're just about racing. So yeah, it was it took me a little while to even like convince Sarah that we should check out the battle mode in Deluxe. But you've been doing that primarily, you'd say, or
Yeah, I would say I'm spending half my time doing that and half my time just doing the course, like the Grand Prix.
yeah,
Because again, I haven't played Mario Kart 8. So I'm kind of experiencing it all in a new way.
yeah.
I will say, to your point, the one reason why I've never liked the wait, are you doing races online, or are you not playing online at all?
Just a little bit.
Okay,
Just a little bit online for both.
because I don't like racing, straight up races online, because I'm not as good as other people are.
Yeah,
So
okay.
they're not fun. Like battle mode is more equal, I feel like. Like
Sure.
I can be good in battle mode.
Battle mode's a little more chaotic too. I feel like
Totally.
there's a lot more like just sort of randomness to it, especially with some of the modes. Like what's the evade what's it called?
Right.
Where,
It's like
Renegade Roundup.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where depending on which round it is, you're either the cops or the criminal, and so you're either chasing the other team with piranha plants or you're just trying to evade them. And a lot of that seems like, well, I'm in the wrong place at the wrong time, and there are two PD piranhas here.
Yeah, that's my least favorite mode.
Yeah. But there's less of that sort of chaos in just straight up racing. So if Renegade Roundup is your least favorite mode, what is your favorite of the battle modes?
I really like the one where you collect coins.
Uh-huh.
And I really like the one where it's like all bombs and you're just trying to blast each other.
Yeah.
And then balloon is all like I like all of them. Any of the other four, like the shine one.
Yeah, Shine Thief I think is my favorite. Just cuz it feels the most cuz coins and bombs and balloons all feel like just kind of slight variations on something, and like there's nothing quite as like exhilarating / nerve-wracking as when you get the shine and you have to hang on to this thing. It's basically like Oddball, right? In the Halo games where you just fight for an object and then you have to hang on to it for as long as you can while everyone chases you down. And I don't know, there's something unique about that feeling of being on the run from everyone.
So originally I thought I was going to be a dry bones guy.
Yeah.
Right? Because that was one of the big omissions from Mario Kart 8.
Which you didn't play.
Which I didn't really play. But when I was playing, I always wanted to be dry bones and was not able to be dry bones. And so when I first started playing Deluxe,
Right.
Dry Bones was my go-to guy. Then I was like, why don't I like
Branch out.
branch out a little bit? So now I'm a Squidling Boy
Okay.
player.
Inkling boy.
Inkling Boy.
Yes.
Love it. Way into being an Inkling Boy.
Which color
The
do
like
you choose?
greenish blue one.
Okay, yeah.
Not the blue one.
Right. Yeah, I like the new characters in this game. Obviously, Dry Bones has his own appeal. We all
Who's your go-to? Is it Rosalina still?
no.
Was it ever Rosalina?
Yeah,
Or was I just
Mario
casting
Kart-
aspersions on you for
I
no
like
good reason?
Rosalina.
Yeah, I know. I'm not saying I don't know that you know.
Mario Kart Wii, she was my go-to, because she was one of the heaviest characters, and I like that a lot.
And is that useful when you're doing motion controls?
I don't know.
Have you been doing motion controls in this game?
No. Yeah. Not at all. And didn't do it on the Wii U either. My go-tos are I've got a handful that I like. I like Baby Daisy, because she's so obnoxious. And Roy.
Roy's a good
the
one.
Koopaling. I love Roy. He's wearing these big dumb sunglasses. But I also really like King Boo. He was not in original version of this game, and he's just big and dumb and doesn't have feet to power this go-kart that he's driving. But
So
I think
you
he's
favor
great.
like heavier characters?
Yeah, I think so. But I mean, I've also got a baby in my lineup there, so
That's true.
I don't know. I think the differences between the way the characters play are subtle enough if you pick the same karts. I'm a kart guy. I don't really like the bikes at all.
I loved the bikes in Wii, but don't
Yeah.
like them as much in. I've been doing primarily karts as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's just something different about the way they control that I'm just not into, which is a shame because I would like to play as Link on his Epona motorcycle because that's so cool and dumb and I love it, but I don't want to ride the motorcycle.
So like Breath of the Wild is to me almost like the perfect form of Zelda.
Yeah.
I feel like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is the perfect Mario Kart game.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate.
Or like the best version that has come along so far. It takes everything that was good about the old ones and makes it like better.
Yeah. Which of how do you feel about the battle mode levels?
I think they're fine.
Yeah.
Like they're serviceable. I like the lunar one
The lunar one's cool.
a lot.
I like the dragon one.
Yeah, that's fun.
I like that like some of them tie into the themes of because there's also that like dragon raceway, which was originally part of like the DLC in the original version of this game. Original. But I like that it kind of marries those kind of things, but also super cool that the lunar landscape is a totally unique thing. There is no moon level in this game.
I also really like how everything is pretty much opened up from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get more carts and like wheels and customization options the more coins you collect.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most, like all the levels are open.
Yep.
All the modes, and I love that.
And all of the 50, 100, 150 mirror and 200 cc are all available right from the get-go. Have you had an opportunity to play any 200 cc?
No, not yet.
So it's insane. It was a later addition to Mario Kart 8, and I think that's really the way it should be. Like you should have a lot of time with the game before turning on 200 cc because you're just going so fast that like the courses don't work anymore. Like they're sort of broken when you're going so fast.
Well, it feels like the perfect time to turn on the thing that doesn't let you fall off the sides.
The smart steering,
The
yeah.
smart steering and smart accelerating.
So I want to talk about smart accelerating a little bit, because smart steering does feel like a little bit of training wheels, right? Or like a little bit of like safety floaties, right?
Which is turned on by default.
Which is weird.
Which I did not realize. I was doing a few races
Yeah.
before I figured out that it was still on.
Yeah, I saw the little antenna poking out and like glowing when I was getting near the edges and was like, wait a minute. I'm not totally in control of this cart, am I? But the auto accelerate sort of makes sense because it's not really like there's any point during a map where I take my foot off the gas anyway.
And does it work like Super Mario Run where it's just always accelerating?
I don't know. I still turn it off every time because I don't I like let me drive. But I've been thinking about when I hop back into it that I may turn the auto accelerate on.
My understanding, and I could be wrong about this, is that even when it's auto accelerating, if using the right analog stick,
Yeah.
you still have some control. So if you like pull back on the right analog stick, it slows down a little bit. If you
Interesting.
like pull up, it accelerates to its full amount. So I think there is still some variation. It's not just like go.
That's interesting.
But I think it's both of these things are amazing because like my boyfriend doesn't play video games very often, and it's a great way for everybody of different skill levels to be able to play and still have fun and still be able to win, or like still be able to like participate and not be like, I just keep falling off the edge.
Right.
It's like Rainbow Road,
Grumble Volcano, a bunch of those Bowser Castle levels are like punishing if you're not like precise with the game. And, we've been playing Mario Kart long enough where we are precise. But like, yeah, there are definitely, I could actually see playing this one, for example, with my parents or other people who don't really play games that just want to, have a fun time with Mario.
And I don't feel like it breaks the game because I think if you don't have those things turned on, you have more control, more finesse, like you will be better at the game than somebody who's using it. But it just makes it it gives them a chance to actually like play it and not get frustrated because they're constantly falling off the edge.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think they're all good changes, and I have mostly this week been like reading stories about players with disabilities or whatever that are able to play Mario Kart for the first time since losing a limb or whatever. Where it's like, yeah, great, like this, what a cool thing that I feel like most games aren't really tackling. It's not finding a way to. It's not like an automatic win button. It's just like a automatic everyone can play button, which is great.
The music in this game is so good.
Music in this game is dope. I really want to talk about this because I am convinced that the sound mix in this game is different than the sound mix on the original Mario Kart 8.
I would totally believe it. Do you think it's for the better or for the worse?
Absolutely for the better. One of the things I always wanted from Mario Kart 8 was an ability to turn down the sound effects and the voices. I've got nothing against hearing Mario yell and like, like Bowser crying about coming in third place or something. But like the music is so good and it so frequently gets drowned out by this like cacophony of race carts and cartoon characters yelling at each other. There's just such a better balance in this game. I'm hearing little pieces of music and like little flourishes that I've never heard before. And Sarah was saying the same thing, that like it's so much more rewarding to hear the music on like Big Blue or the Sunshine Airport or like all of these levels with like amazing music with just the sound effects turned down or like just mixed slightly to the side or so whatever they're doing. It's so improved from the original.
There's no options menu in the game, which I find baffling.
Yeah, it's a little baffling.
Because having no experience really with Mario Kart 8, I still want to turn down the sound effects a little bit. Like I wish I had a slider that I could turn it down, but that's good to hear that it's better because the music in this game is so good. I love the Excite Bike track.
Yes.
Like that is so good.
And that is one in particular where Sarah was playing it and she was like, I don't think I've ever been able to hear this music before. And it's doing that like and it's so cool. Man, I love that track.
And then Shy Guy Mines. That one reminds me a little bit of Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. like some of those levels.
Yeah,
where you get like the Shy Guys when they're jumping up and down on the sidecars. They're like ooh ooh in like time with the music and everything.
Yeah, they're like sort of singing along, but only as you're driving past them. Yeah, it's oh man, the music in the game's so good. What any are you seeing any like anything that you don't like about the game, or anything that you think is going to give it shorter legs for you, or anything like that?
I don't think so. I feel like Mario Kart, it is a game that you can play over time, but it's not like a game that I feel I need to like mainline. You know, like where I need to just be like, okay, I'm dedicating myself to playing Mario Kart. It's
right. That almost doesn't make sense, right? Like, Mario Kart is a game that like you accidentally spend a Saturday night mainlining, right? Where you're like, oh, I guess I played Mario Kart for 7 hours.
Yeah. So I've been doing the Grand Prix, but I'm like, I'm starting at 50cc and I'm gonna make my way through all of it, but I don't feel the need to like really push myself or rush it. No, I it's kind of the perfect game to go on the Switch.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's great. Like it's a game you want to play with other people.
Speaking of want to play with other people, have you done much playing of this game actually on the Joy-Con?
No. And have you?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, we've got a Pro Controller and the dock, so that's kind of what we default to now, is one of us on each of those. But we took this thing to a friend's birthday party over the weekend, and Sarah and I were there first because we're old. And so we had like 20 minutes where it was just the two of us. And so we played a little kart and we played a little Puyo Puyo Tetris with the split Joy-Con. And it's tight, but it's not like impossible to do.
Did you bring the Joy-Con, whatever they call it? The grip.
Or not the grip. What are they called? The handles?
Yeah, that like slides into place and makes the buttons bigger.
Strap. Yes, I feel like that's a necessity for Mario, because you're using those shoulder buttons so much to both drift and use items. I think you need those buttons to be bigger. So yeah, you basically need the straps, otherwise it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, originally I was thinking I would get a Pro Controller when Splatoon 2 came out, but I think I'm going to pick one up early, or maybe just get another set of Joy-Con, because I do think that, when you're like playing with somebody else at home, it's nice to just have the full setup and not have to also get out the Joy-Con grip and slide it into place and everything. So yeah, I haven't really done that yet. I don't love the Joy-Con grips. Is that what they're called? Joy-Con straps. I don't love the Joy-Con straps.
Oh yeah.
Mine are still in the box. I haven't really pulled them out for anything, because I kind of find it to be like if I was going somewhere, I guess you have a carrying case that you can put them in, but it just feels like another thing that I have to bring.
Yeah, well, I mean, it actually came down to like a decision of, all right, we're bringing the Switch, so it's going to be in its little carrying case. And then I was like, well, do we want to bring also the Pro Controller and also the grip? And that's, where you're like, oh, now we're bringing like a bunch of stuff. And it's so much easier if it's just a single kind of item together, which is still true if you're ripping off the Joy-Con and putting the straps on. It's still like two more things you need to carry with it. So,
but it's just a lot smaller.
Yeah,
it's a lot more manageable.
It's super small and like can fit in the case, no problem. So yeah, I mean, I don't think it's perfect, but it's totally serviceable, and fits the like, hey, who wants to play one race of Mario Kart with me?
Yeah.
And everyone can immediately understand that and be like, oh, I haven't played Mario Kart in years. And you're like, auto steering on for you.
Is there any way to, if I have two items,
yes,
is there any way to use the second item?
No.
Because
use the first item.
In Double Dash, you could switch players.
Right.
And so you could change items that way. I guess it makes sense. But just like strategy wise, sometimes I'm like, ooh, I really want to use that second item first and hold on to this like red shell or little horn thing. Oh, this is the first game I've played that has the horn, or the
8 is the first game that had the horn. Yeah.
And oh man,
isn't it great?
It's so great.
I love that item. So Deluxe added the the ghost item, which steals an item from another player.
And that's from older games.
Yeah, I think it's in the Wii version, maybe in the DS version. I forget which. But I always loved having the horn in regular Mario Kart 8 because like that would be the one thing that would save you from a blue shell is you could blast that thing out of the air. But now there's a counter for that, and someone can take it away with the ghost. I don't know. It's neat to see like these little levels of the game just like kind of leapfrogging each other.
Am I making it up, or in 8 was there like a like infinity symbol or something you could get?
Yeah, we always called it the Crazy 8, but I don't know if that's actually what it was, where you would just be circled by all of the items. I think that is gone from this version of the game.
It seems to be, or I haven't encountered it yet.
Yeah, where like you get a star and a red, a mushroom, a red shell, a blue shell, lightning, something else, a squid probably. It's a little OP, but you know, what are you going to do?
The other thing that they have seemingly kind of pulled back on was like the expressions of Mii characters.
Yeah, I have heard that as well.
Now Mii's were kind of foregrounded or have been kind of backgrounded in general on the Switch, and that continues to be true here because it shares like an icon with amiibos. Is that right? On the character select screen or something?
Well, the amiibo, like amiibos just unlock costumes for the Miis, which is all they did in the first version of the game too. And yeah, like by the time you're scanning in an amiibo to give your racer a costume, you don't care if the Mii looks like you. You know, like that totally doesn't matter. But yeah, they used to smile and ooh and cry and whatever. And I guess that's been taken out of this version, which I'm fine with. I don't need that.
Yeah, death to Miis.
Yeah, death to Miis. We got Inklings in there now. Who needs this?
Not me.
Not me, sister.
And my boy Roy.
Yeah, I got my boy Roy. My boy Roy. Any other thoughts that we have about Mario Kart 8 Deluxe?
I think before the Switch launched, I was saying, I wonder if, because this is a kind of a remaster of Mario Kart 8, that we'll see another Mario Kart like Mario Kart 9 on the Switch's system. Same with if that Smash Brothers turns out to be true. And now that I have 8 Deluxe, it's like, no, there's no point.
Sure. I mean, I would like to. I don't expect this, but it would be really cool if they could treat 8 Deluxe like the Mario Kart platform, and if in 6 months, a year, whatever, they release DLC for it with just another pair of circuits or a couple more battle maps or something, that would make me so happy. I don't need a fully new Mario Kart game every couple years, but like to just make this one better and better.
I think that's really smart, like Mario Kart as a service.
Yeah.
Instead of as like, biannual releases or whatever, it's just like, here's Mario Kart and we're going to continue to support it throughout the life of the system.
And like if they had some like weird take on Mario Kart, like something that is more divergent from just like this main series, like that's fine. I want to see that too. But like for just mainline Mario Kart, this is, like you were saying, kind of the perfect form of that.
And so now that I'm looking at it, it's like, if this Smash Brothers port does turn out to be true, and there's really no reason for it to not exist, because the Wii U version of Super Smash Brothers, again, is kind of takes all the elements of the other Smash Brother games and
remove Solid Snake and
Ice Climbers. The thing everybody wanted to happen. But no, it feels like, this is almost the perfect version of this game. And why not remaster it for a system that people will actually own this time?
It also seems
and then
like
clear up those development resources to work on something else.
Yeah. Well, and also it seems like there's to do like a deluxe version of Smash 4, it's would be easy enough to be like, okay, it just has the levels of both the Wii U and 3DS version.
And Ice Climbers are back.
And Ice Climbers are back because they can be back. Solid Snake, though, no. No Solid Snake. Mark, let's close up this discussion. Mark, I've got a listener reader question for us to discuss. And of course, anyone can send in your questions to us by emailing Nintendo Cartridge Society at
gmail.com.
And just, what experiences are you having with Mario Kart? Do you like kart racing games in general? Other racing games you like? Why aren't there more F-Zero games? Whatever. Diddy Kong Racing. Anything. These are prompts that I'm giving you to give prompts to us. We got an email this week from J. Edgar Davis. He writes, I'm listening to your 12/20/16 show right now, so back in December, and I had another thought on why there would be a bigger demand for an N64 classic over other systems, especially the Super Nintendo. The N64 was a unique experience compared to other systems at the time. There are also ways to get Nintendo 64 controller adapted for USB, but they are much more exhausting to get than basic PlayStation-style USB controllers. I have 3 of those, and they work great for NES, Super NES, and Game Boy games. They're available at any GameStop. Nintendo 64 and GameCube are harder to play on. I apologize. Nintendo 64 and GameCube are harder to play on keyboard or on these USB controllers, so they're not as popular for emulation. I have emulators for both Super Nintendo and Nintendo, but I couldn't care less about the classics on them. But I went out and bought my girlfriend a Nintendo 64 2 Christmases ago because we were both extremely nostalgic for it. That's my thought on why it took off. So basically what he's saying is that it is harder to have the Nintendo 64 experience with an emulator and like normal commercially available controllers for emulators. Any thoughts on if like the hardware restrictions that the Nintendo 64 presents, and the GameCube, I guess, would make it a more attractive, like, classic edition console?
I guess that's a great point, because even though there are 64 games on the like virtual console, and since the Wii they were on there, the experience of playing it on the Wii or another system was totally different.
Yeah, not the same.
And part of that does come down to that really weird controller.
Yeah, and that really weird controller. I mean, like, there is no, and there will never be another analog stick that feels like the Nintendo 64 analog stick. Like, none. And no other controller has the C buttons laid out in that way, as like a sort of second D-pad that's like up on the controller.
And some of the remakes we have seen, like Super Mario 64 DS, were bad.
Yeah, but I mean, some that we've seen a bit, like Majora's Mask and Link to the Ocarina of Time, have been really good.
But those also play fairly differently because they're like adapted to new controllers. Not in a bad way, but it's not like the same experience.
Right. So I guess like my question to you specifically about this is like, are there games, Nintendo 64 games, that feel so well like molded to that controller that I'll just lead off with a couple that I can think of. Wave Race 64 felt very at home on the Nintendo 64 controller.
Pilot Wing 64?
Totally. And I mean, really, even Mario 64, like Super Mario 64 feels at home. The C buttons being what they are, they're the camera buttons for that game, you know? And just, it's so weird that the controller just had this extra, that left prong of the thing, right? Where it really just has the D-pad and an L button that so few games ever used. Like, I wonder if they did a Nintendo 64 Classic, if they would the controller be the whole thing, even though, like, part of it you basically never use?
Also, if they... Yeah, I guess they would make them full size. That alone would make it worthwhile to me for them to make a N64 Classic Edition, is so we could get those controllers again.
Yeah.
How crazy would that be for them to make those?
It would be
in the
nuts.
Year like 2020.
It would be crazy. And there would have to be a way for you to hook up 4 of those things to a Nintendo 64 Classic, which is insane. I mean, I do think that the Well, the hardware is like that. I think that is a compelling argument as to why a Nintendo 64 Classic could be a more successful thing. I don't know that it has the software necessarily to support it, especially if it's going by the same rules as like the NES Classic. Like I'd be hard pressed to come up with 30 games.
I think those games have also aged really
Yeah.
poorly.
Yeah, I mean like GoldenEye, you can't play GoldenEye anymore.
I don't know how that would look blown up on like a 50-inch screen.
It's not just about how it would look, it's about how it plays. Like Nintendo may have nailed Mario traversing in a 3D space from a third-person perspective, but like Rare did not nail first-person shooter mechanics on a controller. They didn't do it. Like that came later.
I also think it would be really hard for people to go back to playing regularly on the N64 because in my head I'm like, how do you even hold this controller?
Hold it in the middle.
What do you do with like one of your thumbs because there's only one stick? It's just like it's.
Yeah.
We've moved so far beyond that. I would also be interested to know how old the person is that was writing in.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like age would have something to do with it as well. I wonder if the N64 is the system that encompasses like the Venn diagram of everybody's Nintendo experience is the greatest in the N64.
Sure.
Because people who grew up in the age of the NES were not like too far beyond it at that point. And
and younger people were growing up with it.
Right.
Yeah.
And Nintendo was still at its height then versus, what Nintendo is today, which is a storied company that
/ scrappy underdog.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's for me the Nintendo 64 is the first time I remember feeling like Nintendo was different in a bad way. When I was like, I bought this thing because I thought Final Fantasy VII was coming to it because I saw it in Nintendo Power. And then it didn't, and I was like, oh, where am I going to get these RPG experiences? And there weren't any on the Nintendo 64. There was Quest 64. That game was terrible. Didn't stop me from playing it a bunch, but like, yeah, it's my nostalgia for it. I have affinity for games that appeared on it. I've already talked about Diddy Kong Racing, but like, yeah, it's not in my mind. Like, it's not in like the pantheon of great systems for me.
But this is a great point, though, that I hadn't really considered, that you can't get the N64 experience anywhere but an N64.
Yeah, that's right. And without getting a Nintendo 64, a Nintendo 64 controller, slapping a rumble pack into the back of the controller, and then finding an expansion drive so you can play Majora's Mask and Donkey Kong 64, which also don't play Donkey Kong 64.
Don't bother.
It's not worth it. If it comes out on a N64 Classic, fine. Play a little bit of it then.
Yeah, but don't waste your time.
No, certainly don't waste your time. Did we talk about this? Would you? How do you say? So I say Super NES, right? And you say
SNES?
SNES.
Or Super Nintendo.
When it comes to Nintendo 64, do you say N64?
Yeah. N64, Nintendo 64. What do you say? What else could you say?
Nintendo 64.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The whole word. Yeah, it's interesting. I think with the exception of NES, I like to say the whole word Nintendo.
I never abbreviate it to 64, though.
I wonder if there are examples of me doing that earlier in the show. Whatever. It doesn't matter. But great question. I think hardware is a super compelling argument for why there should be a Nintendo 64 Classic.
Yeah, it in the GameCube. Because again, the GameCube controller, you aren't able to get that experience anywhere else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Analog triggers.
Yeah, analog triggers and that weird little C-stick. Also, the one big button.
The one big button.
Love the one big button. Man, I wish the one big button would come back. All right. I think that means it's time for us to wrap up the show. That's going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, you can always send us your emails and participate in this conversation, which is fun. It's genuinely fun, by writing into Nintendo Cartridge Society
at gmail.com.
or you can follow us on Twitter. We're just at NinCart Society. Check out the Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. If you have a second, we would love for you to rate and review all that garbage on iTunes. Share with your friends. You're listening the day this comes out. You know how all of this works. If you like Mark and mine's opinions, you can read our reviews of comic books on retconpunch.com. If you want to watch us play D&D, you can check us out on Twitch. It's the Dungeoneers Union every Tuesday night. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can check out his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying maybe we shouldn't have let the football guys in. It's really hot in here. Thanks for listening.
What's a Creative Podcast Network?